And I am alive. Welcome to Mainstream Movies Reviews. We will cover two January movies, two spy flick, two action comedy movies. And I hope all of you will enjoy. So let's move on to the intro now. I think it's the perfect moment. So I've seen these two movies over the weekend, and I feel like it makes sense to place them in the same stream. This is why we are doing it. It's funny how they came out around the same time, and it's kind of the same premise, but given a different way in both cases. And it's very interesting how they play around the same idea. Uh, so we will start by talking about the movie Back in Action. Uh, Cameron Diaz, I know she is a big name, but unfortunately, I cannot really remember which other movie she did. But I know she was some kind of draw for Matt for watching that movie. So Back in Action basically is a movie where we got a couple of retired spy. They live a normal life with their kids until the day they decide to just fight in a bar and people are talking about it and yeah, they are no longer retired. They fight off a bunch of people and it's a very entertaining action flick, a very entertaining comedy spy flick. Um, I thought both movies were very fun. The other movie is Alarum. We will talk about Alarum right after, but let's start by saying, uh, my first issue with Back in Action. Some of the dialogue is horrendous, and it doesn't feel like people talking. I think it's some kind of trope with some of these streaming movies. I don't know what's going on. I feel like these streaming movies they don't really work hard. They're like we need to catch the people attention even if they're not really watching the movies. So sometimes the dialogue is really weird. Um, so that's the first issue with Back in Action. My second issue with this movie would be awful CGI when the plane blew up. The CGI snow in the plane crash was bad. CGI being bad is it's something new, right? Look back 10 years ago, we had great CGI, but apparently now it has gotten cheaper, so people feel like they can get away with worse CGI, but they don't. And usually, I don't complain that much about CGI. I mean, I'm a huge Arrowverse fan, and let's be honest, CGI isn't always great with these TV shows. So when I say CGI sucked, man, CGI sucked. This is what's going on. My third issue with Back in Action: too many characters. I feel like most of the cast is underused, under fleshed out, under everything, and that's the segue to my last issue. Characters were forgettable, and I will be honest. Thinking back, if I don't read too much through my notes, I don't remember that much about that movie. Maybe it's because Alarum was more memorable for me than this movie. Maybe it's because I've seen like 8 movies over the weekend, so they all like mushed together. Um, yeah, these were my 4 issues with Back in Action. Now I may sound overly negative, but I did enjoy. That movie was a lot of showing over telling, which is great. I want that in my movies. And it's surprising because usually like streaming movies they they want to tell you exposition dump after exposition dump because they know people have low attention span and they don't always pay attention when watching streaming movies like that one. Um, the action was very entertaining. I think it's very important when you have a action comedy spy flick like Back in Action. It's important that your action is entertaining, and it was the case. So, good job on that, guys and girls, whoever made that movie. Um, we had car chase, we had fights, more action, more action. Uh, and one of the themes that was very fun about that movie that wasn't there in Alarum would be how it can be hard for parents to adapt when they were a soldier and now they're a civilian. That's kind of cool. You don't really expect that from a streaming service movie because usually it's low effort, but there they kind of when they're like, you know what, let's explore something other streaming movie don't necessarily explore, which is great. Keep doing that. Uh, it's also hilarious how the parents are hypocrites because they blast their kids for lying, but they lie themselves, which is hilarious and on brand. They are spies, so for years they lied and they lie again. It's just normal. It makes sense. Outside of that, again, Back in Action. It's not the movie of the year. It's not the flop of the year. I say that because I've just seen like just before the stream a terrible movie, Into the Deep. Don't watch that. It's bad. Um, so when I think back about Back in Action, I'm like, you know what? You're not that terrible. You're not great. You're not a masterpiece. You're not the best movie of the year, but you're not the worst. So I will give my score for Back in Action being a solid 8.5 out of 10. So it's a good flick. I highly recommend that movie. So if you want a cool spy flick, that's the flick for you. Uh, I enjoyed it, but again, it's not perfect. I feel like this year started off kind of decent, but so far I was more impressed with 2023 and 2024 for the matter of fact. So let's see how the year goes. January is almost over. Tomorrow I'm watching Dogman, a animated movie that looks very fun, and Companion, um, a very interesting thriller of sci-fi. Cannot wait for tomorrow. So with that being said, let's move on to the second flick of tonight, Alarum. So that's another spy flick that came out in January, and I think that was another streaming service one. But that one was kind of special. I had a bit more issues with it. It was that movie was more memorable, but it was slightly worse in my books. Uh, so let's get into it. So Alarum, uh, you grab Willa Fitzgerald from Strange Darling. You turn her into a spy, and you give her a script, and this is what you get. You take Rocky Balboa and turn him into a spy. This is what you get. So basically, that movie has Sylvester Stallone playing a spy and Willa Fitzgerald playing a spy, and that's a movie all about plot twist and double crossing each other. That's the peak of what a spy trailer can be when it comes to plot twist and turn and action. The action was actually really good with Alarum. So let's get into my three issues with Alarum. Number one, nobody could aim in the shootout inside the forest. So we had a big shootout. We got like a big army going against the main character. And I will be honest, I can't remember the name of the actor or even his face. So I guess that could be a minus for that movie. But anyway, so we got an army going after that guy in the forest, and nobody can aim. It's a parody. It's like it's in purpose. I can't believe they placed the stamp of approval and said, you know what, we got a masterpiece action sequence. I don't think it happened, but hey, That wasn't a movie that was greenlit. Um, Number two, in that same sequence where we got an army chasing after the main character and nobody can actually hit him, even if there's like 20 shooters or so. Um, we got a main character having a rifle and shooting down every single enemies without missing, and it's hilarious because it feels like he has unlimited ammo for an entire like 3 to 5 minutes of shooting at bad guys. We don't see once the main character shooting, reloading, rewind. For 5 minutes, we don't see the main character reloading. So his gun has unlimited ammo or what? He just goes pew 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 nonstop for 5 minutes, no reloading. And even there, he stole a weapon from someone else. So even if he needed to reload, he didn't add the mags. So maybe that's why they didn't make him reload. But it's stretching it too far. It's not paying attention to any detail. They they just want you to suspend disbelief and be like, oh yeah, that guy has the perfect gun with unlimited ammo. I know I nitpick too much, but hey, um, that's how I felt watching that sequence. Uh, Later on in the movie, we get another big action piece, and people cannot aim again. That's fun, right? That's very fun. I think the biggest issue with that movie is really like the action when there were shootouts. Not great, but the fist fights, the fight choreography itself was actually really cool. It was flashy and fun, but when we had full on shootout, that was horrendous. Um, so that was the biggest sin of that movie. Now again, I said it. We have Sylvester Stallone in that movie, and he is that friend that we cannot trust. And turns out, we cannot trust that friend. Uh, it's funny. Again, every plot twist is kind of cool, and watching the Electric Lady from Strange Darling just kicking butts in that movie was very fun. Willa Fitzgerald just destroying groups of enemies was peak entertainment. And usually when it's a woman against man fight, I'm harsh and rude because I feel like people making these things, they don't always realize the physics of a fight and how physical it can be and how unbelievable it can be for a woman to flip a guy twice her size. But they did well when they involved Willa Fitzgerald's character against a bunch of men bigger and tougher than her. It made sense that she would beat them down because she's not flipping them with super strength. It's just well thought of fight choreography. Um, I want more in that in movies like that. She doesn't have super strength. She doesn't need to. She need to be clever. She need to know martial arts and that kind of stuff. So that aspect was solid. The action in that movie was peak when there was no gun involved, and the brutality of the action was kind of fun. And I will admit, the the big bad, there are several big bad actually. They're all entertaining. They're really cool. Um, you don't want to mess with them, and that's the point of a bad guy, right? You don't want to mess. You don't want to mess with that big bad guy. So Alarum is a really cool movie. They go after a MacGuffin. So basically, a plane crashes with some kind of item. The bad guys want to retrieve, but the good guys also want to retrieve it, and the main character also wants to retrieve it. And what's very interesting about that movie is we don't even know if the main characters are the good guys. Hell, the people that we're working for, we also cannot trust them. So that's the interesting aspect to it. Um, so yeah, I highly recommend Alarum. Very cool flick. Uh, the characters realizing they've been double crossed each time because there's a lot of double crossing. Each time was very fun. And again, in that movie, the two leads, they also wanted a normal life, but they realized quickly it was boring and it wasn't for them. So that's cool. We need more of that, right? So overall, I highly recommend Alarum. I would give Alarum a 8 out of 10. It's slightly worse than Back to Action, mainly because of the shootouts. I I hate when shootouts force themselves too hard into suspension of disbelief and that kind of stuff. I I don't want to turn off my brain when I watch a movie. I want to enjoy it even when I'm thinking. I wasn't enjoying the shootouts. So overall, still a solid movie, 8 out of 10. Slightly worse than Back in Action. Next week we will talk about Dogman Monday. Uh, a cop and a dog uh, sharing a car accident, and the end result, the head of the dog is placed on the man body, and we got Dogman. Cannot wait to talk about that Monday. I will watch that movie tomorrow, and we will also talk about Companion at some point next week. So 2025 thus far has a lot of movies. I've seen 10 of them, and 9 of these 10 worked in my books. Only one was really bad, and it's the movie I've seen earlier today, Into the Deep. That was bad. That was bad. If you want to laugh at the movie, you can go watch that. Into the Deep. Terrible movie. But every 9 others movie I've seen went from average to kind of great. So that's a good start for 2025. I cannot wait to review more stuff. See you on the next stream or video. Have a good one.